All right, I think in the interest of time, we will get started. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Elena and I have here with me Odette, who has kindly agreed to take over for Fletcher, who unfortunately can't make it. We're members of the Comp Student Council and are moderators for this session. So today's Comp Career Catalyst or C3 seminar is all about residency applications, which is perfect timing since the match opens tomorrow, I believe. So we're grateful to have here an amazing lineup of those who are very familiar with the process. Dr. Joseph Madamesila, a resident at the Arthur J.E. Child Comprehensive Cancer Center. Dr. Naranjan Venugopal, a residency director at Cancer Care Manitoba, and Dr. Jude Free, a resident at BC Cancer Surrey. So before we begin, I'd like to do a quick land acknowledgement. So I'm personally located in Toronto, and for thousands of years, the land that the University of Toronto operates on has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. And today it's still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. And I believe it is important that we recognize and express gratitude that we're able to work on this land. So I encourage everyone to visit whos.land to learn more about where your institution is situated on.
So I will introduce our mission as a Common Student Council. So as you can see, we are an education subcommittee involved with students and trainees interested in medical physics across Canada, and our mission is to advise the COM board through the education committee on matters of importance to COM student members. We organize several activities, social, academic, and professional development events, such as this one, and some more that you can keep seeing through the year using our social media. So overall, it helps us to create a strong student community. So our initiatives, some examples are the AdCom annual scientific meeting. We organize the Students' Night Out, the Young Professional Workshops, the Canadian Residency Fair, and even the Science Spoken Socially S3. Also, we host, obviously, these COM Career Catalyst seminars, student spotlights in LinkedIn, and also now our new launch Instagram account, and also the research discovery seminars, where students can share all their research. So, what about this Career Catalyst seminar series? So it's a professional development series designed for students and trainees who are interested in enhancing their knowledge and developing skills for success in graduate school and to accelerate a future in medical physics. So every session that we will do will be announced in our social media and also via email. And all the sessions will be recorded and be submitted in YouTube.
Awesome. Thanks, Odette. Some housekeeping rules. Please mute your mic during the talks. And if you have a question, please raise your hand or write it in the chat. And as Odette said, this session is being recorded and will be shared on YouTube for your reference. So after the opening remarks, we'll have a 10-minute presentation on the residency application process, followed by a very exciting 20-minute mock interview. After that, we'll have 20 minutes of the panel discussion and Q&A where we invite participants to interact and ask questions to our panelists. And then we will conclude with our closing remarks. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Dr. Joseph Madamesila is a second-year medical physics resident at the Arthur J.E. Child Comprehensive Cancer Center in Alberta. During his residency, he commissioned a TrueBeam for EBRT and continuously developed the center's RadMachine-based QA program. His current focus is on implementing a clinical off-axis multi-target Winston-Lutz process built around existing clinical phantoms to minimize workflow friction. Dr. Madamesila professional interest includes SABR, QA automation and applications of machine learning and AI to imaging and treatment QA. He has also contributed to medical physics outreach as an invited speaker to multiple fairs and competitions, where he received bronze for his graduate work in diffusion weighted MRI and SRS. So I will stop my screen share, and Dr. Madamesila, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Can you hear me? And also, can you see
Yes.
my screen? Great. Yeah. So thank you so much for the kind words. I just prepared a very short presentation here, so we can just kind of learn about the medical physics residency application process, and then I'll pass it off to my colleague Niranjan, who will talk about it from the perspective of like a program director, and then we'll do, as it was mentioned earlier, the mock interviews, which will be very interesting and I think insightful for people who are potentially applying for residency. Okay. So just really quick on who am I? Like you heard in my introduction, but I am a second year medical physics resident in Calgary. And For context, I had only applied for Canadian programs during when I did the match back in 2023-24. And I'm a Canadian citizen. And then I had a lot of like clinical experience for my graduate studies, as well as a lot of medical physics outreach, public speaking, and everything. So that's a little bit about who am I. And I just want to preface this presentation by saying like it'll be a little bit different. It'll be very quick and I won't go into a lot of the details simply because I really don't want to rehash kind of the excellent talks that have already been given in 2023 and 2024, specifically from Haley and also an old friend of mine, Thomas. They basically have very, very long presentations, like 15 minutes each, where they really show like the minutia of the process. So I didn't want to kind of do that again because I feel like we can refer to those, and I think it would be really useful to kind of see again this mock interview. And also at the bottom, I do have a link here, and you can also Google it. It's that residency Google sheet. It's very, very useful. It was very useful when I was applying and when I was kind of gauging different centers. If you just Google like the medical physics residency Google sheet, you could see it's like a crowdsourced Google Doc that has all this information from all these different centers. So continues to be a very, very valuable resource. So I highly encourage anyone to see that. But yeah, so we're just going to go very quick kind of on the process itself. So in terms of the residency timeline, you can see it on the medical physics match website, but here it is just for your convenience. So that's kind of the process kind of starts now. Like it was mentioned that tomorrow the match like officially opens. So basically, at this point, if you're going for the match for next summer, you want to be starting for asking for reference letters right now. So kind of in this October, November region, we learn what programs will be in the match, which ones like are going to be like available to you, and then also this is the time that you're asking your references. And then in December, that's when the application actually starts, and you can start submitting your applications. And then kind of in that mid-February region will be where interviews will take place. And then finally March, the dates here will be the match as well. Okay. Yeah, so that's the kind of the overview of the timeline. One change that I've heard this year that's different from other years is that the applications will be submitted through the Memphis Match website. So the National Match Service website there. In previous years, in the year that I had applied for, it was you would do the match on the website, but any of like the application documents, the cover letter, the CVs, the academic transcripts were given directly to an email address for like the centers that you're applying for. But this doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So just double check with each center, but I think this year it's more of a mandatory thing where you actually have to submit through the website. Okay. But that's really the kind of the big change. Everything else is still very, very relevant. So in terms of application prep, it's really important to update your CV first. I think that kind of sets the foundation for your entire application because it really contextualizes kind of what are your strengths, what have you done, and then that enables you to basically tell your references kind of the extent of your collaboration. So once you have your CV done, you should have a section in your CV that shows kind of your research background, who are the authors. And then from there, when you ask your references for a reference letter, you can attach that updated CV, whether it's a draft or it's the final CV itself, highlighting kind of your name and also, what you've done. Because, in a lot of these cases, it's a project that's been taken over years, or it's maybe it was finished a few years ago from when you're applying, and then you want to be able to remind those people. So For your references, one at least should be your supervisor. Again, this is like a red flag. It's been said many times, and again, those previous talks that I had referred to before. But one should be your supervisor. And then, at least in my case, another one was a different physicist, and my third reference was an RO, a radiation oncologist that I had worked with a lot. So, those are the kind of the people that I was asking for and who were able to like deliver a strong reference letter for me. You want to give that CV to them, and you want to tell them instructions, where to send it, and as well as a deadline, and then just check up on them a few weeks before the deadline to see if like something happens and they're suddenly not able to give you a reference letter. You want to be able to have a backup plan and have time to kind of pivot before the deadline. So in an example here, I just kind of laid out, this is kind of the CV that I had made. So I had my employment and education kind of first and foremost. Then it's really important to show kind of like your scholarships, your awards, if it's relevant, any of the honors and things you've received over the years. And then what's really, really important is to kind of show your research contribution. So everything you've published, conference oral presentations separated from conference poster presentations, just showing kind of like your productivity, because this is really important for clinics to be able to see. Then I like to do teaching contributions, my service contributions. So I do a lot of outreach, my memberships in professional organizations. So like COMP and APM. And then I have also the references just for the convenience of the person reading the CV. Basically, I had one specific for every clinic. So this like little section would be different. So I had like 5 or 6 different CVs for the 5 or 6 different clinics I had applied for. And then finally, kind of like the last is hobbies and things that you just want to show that you're a cool human, right? So otherwise, the other important thing is to also have a cover letter. So, it's one page, it's concise, it's professional, and it's also very specific to that clinic. So, in that first paragraph of your cover letter, you really want to show, why are you interested in that specific clinic itself? So that's when you research that clinic and you can show, why do you want to match to that clinic? It's because you have, clinic X has A, B, C. And then once the clinic reads your cover letter, they know, okay, this person actually is not doing like a blanket generic cover letter. They actually know what we do at our clinic. And, that really elevates your cover letter above other cover letters, right? And then paragraphs 2 and 3 can be more interchangeable. So things like, what's your research experience? What's your clinical experience, your soft skills that you might have? But really, a lot of cover letters tend to have these must-haves. So to have your match code in the cover letter, to have your expected date of graduation defense, and then also your status of citizenship, especially if you're applying in Canada. All the centers that I applied for in Canada asked to clearly state in the cover letter that I'm a Canadian citizen. So for example, here's like my actual cover letter that I used. And then I've just redacted some stuff here, but at the top, you'll see that I have my match code up there, contact information. I have a sentence here that says my expected PhD defense and graduation is May 2024. It makes it very clear to show that, like your timelines align with the timelines of the programs you're applying for. And then also, here I just wrote that I am a Canadian citizen, so that's really, really clear to whoever's reading. Okay. And then in terms of interview prep, again, I don't want to rehash what's already been said in previous talks, but usually you have to prepare some presentation on your research. So this is focusing on kind of just giving a complete research story. So you don't want to like focus on the details of your research. You just want to give a very concise like story of your research that you've done in your graduate studies or previous. Right. So the big tip is to always prepare 2 PowerPoints. So one should be done in 7 minutes and one should be done in 15 minutes. And then basically you can tailor from there. So I know like that 7-minute presentation was used a lot. Some centers ask for 10 minutes. So you just add 3 minutes to that. But as long as you have a 7-minute and a 15-minute, everything else should be like pretty straightforward there. And then for public speaking, I use my friend to be able to practice, but especially recently, I've been using a lot of AI to practice public speaking. So like a lot of AIs are very advanced now that you can say an answer and then they would respond with feedback quite quickly. So I think that's also really, really valuable to leverage that technology. And then finally, in terms of applications and rankings, you only should really apply to places that you're willing to go or interested. Like it takes a lot of energy to be able to even just go through the process with a single center, let alone like 5 or 6, which is kind of what I did. And then, it's been stated pretty clearly, like in evidence and previous matching, like surveys, that people who apply to like basically every center tend to not really rank as high. So and then also again, it just takes a lot of energy. So just don't apply to every center, only those that you're willing to go to. And then only rank those that you're willing to move to. So if you rank a center, there is a non-zero chance that you could get sent there, and it looks very, very bad if you say no to that match. So you should only rank places you want to go to. And here's just kind of was my process. My first rank, I just casually based it on my gut. And then I evaluated that and then made a second rank based on how things went, like objectively. So the notes I've taken during those interviews, the presentation, how did that feedback go? And then I just combine that kind of gut check and also that objective check. And then that makes a personal ranking for me. You basically submit it early and then you sleep on it. And then you just make sure, like, after a night of thinking of it, like that was the true rank that you wanted to have. And then again, that's how you finalize the ranking. You should submit early because I think you can rank and then you can like submit a new rank and change it over time. So it's never a bad idea to just submit early. Right. And that's all I have for there. So I wanted to kind of send it off to Niranjan, who will go over the perspective from a program director.
Yes, thank you so much, Joseph, for the incredible summary of the match process. So first, before introducing the next speaker, I will ask you all the attendees to remove everything that you have pinned. So make sure that you have anything like a camera or a participant pin in your Zoom, and then go to the top settings and turn on the speaker view, please. So once that is done, Elena, let me know when you set up the. Okay,
Yes,
perfect. Thank you so much. Yes, and so now I'm going to introduce the next speaker. So it's Dr. Niranjan Venugopal. So Dr. Niranjan completing his bachelor honors degree in physics from the University of Regina, followed by both his master's and PhD degrees in medical physics at the University of Manitoba. Throughout his career, Dr. Venugopal has developed expertise in MRI. He's currently a member of the Clinical Radiotherapy Physics Group at Cancer Care Manitoba and serves as a program director for the Radiation Oncology Physics Residency program. So now the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's really quite wonderful to see all the people join this afternoon and be a part of this great discussion. So thank you for the kind introduction. And like Joseph said, we're sort of tag teaming a little bit today, and I'm going to present a little bit about our resident selection process and interview preparation. And I'll try to keep it in general terms so that it kind of applies, for most. Every center is going to have slightly different criteria, but in general, I think, like, just my own study, there are some similar things that we all look for, and I think I'm going to try to share that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I didn't put down my email address, but my email address is in the comp directory, so feel free to reach out and connect if you do have any follow-up questions after today's talk. So, this question about like who is the ideal candidate, I mean, I don't think there's like an ideal candidate per se. I think, all of you who are, doing your graduate studies are quite intelligent, capable, and, and often quite, experts in experts in your field. And I think that's very well respected especially amongst those who are reviewing candidate applications. So for those who are out there, I just want to share that you guys are all doing great work. Keep it up. But I think in general, we can agree that, having a good academic record, a good set of references, proven research track record, you become an expert in your area, scholarly achievements, and if possible, like you're already busy with your academic work. And for those who can, fit in the extracurricular activities, like I know many of you are involved in a lot of comp initiatives, APM initiatives, and it's quite wonderful to see that. So those extracurricular activities are like kind of icing on the cake. And then of course, what shapes, the selection process is your performance in that interview. So this is sort of just a general outline, but to get into maybe some specifics, like, when a candidate does apply, we do review to make sure that, all of the Camp Pepper courses have been taken, that there aren't any gaps in the education process. And we in our center, we do look at both your undergraduate and graduate transcripts. And we do look at your GPA. Your GPA is important. And I think, at this level, at this stage of your career and wanting to go further into the residency program, and it is a competitive process. The expectation is that, we expect a good GPA and we expect people to come with mostly A's. So I think that just, highlights some of the aspects of the academic record. Reference letters. Now, Joseph touched on this. Choose someone who knows you, choose someone who has worked with you closely, and who can speak to that, and who knows about, your academic achievements, and who can speak to your character as well. And I think if it's tough, in academic environment, and sometimes we do get siloed in our labs, and, you're deep into doing all this interesting research. But I think it is important to make these connections with your supervisors, with mentors that are around you, so that when you do come to the time where you are interviewing and you're trying to advance your career, you can go to these people, and I'm sure many people would love the honor of writing a reference letter. So it's just something to keep in mind. And like our center, we require 3 reference letters. So keep an eye out for that. Different centers require different number of reference letters, but generally 2 to 3 is what I've seen. In terms of the research track record, I think, this really speaks to your expertise. And I think it also speaks to, your productivity during your graduate studies. Being able to, go out into the community, the medical physics community, and present abstracts, make conference presentations, posters and orals, participate in competitions, and ultimately, the writing of papers, so, going through that peer review process. These are all things that add to your CV, and I think would highlight, your area of expertise. And everyone, I think some people are, get sometimes worried about, do I need to publish 7 papers? Or do I need to publish 3 papers? Like, is there some number? I think it all depends. It all depends on the quality of work, the depth of the work. Some people are involved in clinical studies that take a long time. Some people are involved in computer simulation, which doesn't depend on clinical studies. So it depends. But showing and demonstrating good productivity is a hallmark of a good candidate. Scholarly achievements. Now, I think, many of us, maybe we don't speak. We're not great at speaking about ourselves, but this is the time where I think you do need to do that. You need to highlight, the achievements you've made, scholarships, ones that that are meaningful in the context of medical physics and your academia, and some of the things you might be doing in your extracurricular activities. But mention the minor ones, like if you've won a speaking competition that's local. But the major ones, like if you've received a major grant or something like an NSERC scholarship, or a scholarship provided by the Canadian Cancer Society, these are things that should be highlighted, and those are your talking points as well. And the ones that are at the very high level, like NSERC and Cancer Society, they're very competitive. So to receive them is an honor, and I think as students, I would encourage you all to try to highlight your accomplishments and make sure that it's in your CV and in your cover letter. Okay, so the extracurricular activities, this is an interesting one. If you can do it, great. It's going to be the icing on the cake to your CV. I think participating in stuff like this is fantastic. And I think if you have the opportunity to do it, I think it will help your organizational skills. It will help your leadership skills. but it will also like give you a chance to just interact with the community and get to know what's happening out there. So I encourage that as well. But I do want to acknowledge that not everyone has the time to do this. And like some people who are involved in some very heavy projects, I can understand that you may not have had the time to be part of some of these extracurricular activities. But I think so take it with a grain of salt, this aspect. But I think in terms of developing yourself as a well-rounded individual, I think it's important to try and try to engage in the community. So that's a little bit about the extracurricular activities. The interview process itself, as Joseph mentioned, it's like maybe 99% preparation, 1% like the interview. You got to like you got to for these things you have to prepare if you want to succeed. I think Joseph gave some great tips. Spend time with your lab mates, your fellow graduate students, people in the field. Reach out to faculty, people that you can trust and get reliable feedback from and give presentations. And I think the other aspect of this that I will like just want to throw out there is that when you do ask for it, it's not just doing it, but it's also receiving the feedback, the constructive feedback, and incorporating it and really acting on it will really fine tune your whole, your CV, your whole, the package that you're putting together as a candidate for a residency program. So, as as part of the interview, we are looking for really good communication skills and that your answers contain substance and depth to them. That I think this is something that I think when we're in the interview scenario and it's a stressful scenario, you're nervous potentially, you might just fly through your answers. And the only way to I think you can get around it is practice in front of people, and write things down, sort of like studying for an exam. But it's not as I would say as stressful as an exam. I don't think people are going to, in general, pick apart each sentence that you said. Um, People will appreciate the depth, and people will appreciate the depth of your answer, the thoughtfulness of your answer. So it's some things to think about. Um, and we're also looking for the interpersonal qualities. As medical physicists, we are interacting with a larger community and as you all know, of clinicians, radiation oncologists, radiation therapists, nuclear electronics individuals who are and then there's a wider group of people, maybe in a university setting, professors, students. So, we're we those interpersonal qualities are very important and an asset to us as professionals. Okay, so in terms of the selection process, now every center is going to have their own recipe to this. So I'll speak to this very generally, and we have to get going because I'm going to try to keep this brief. But there's going to be an application review. The CVs and transcripts are going to be screened, and if a center does get 30 applications, it does mean that they're going to interview all 30 people. Most likely there will be a shortlisting process. The interview process itself can contain a mixture of human resource style questions and potentially, and I've seen this more often, is some technical questions, some questions that are around medical physics knowledge, like just some general questions around oncology and medical imaging and radiation oncology. So I think you should be prepared for that. And then of course the ranking and final selection. I think as Joseph alluded to, you're at the end of the day, we are looking at all the candidates and ranking the candidates, but you're also ranking us. So at the end, there's this algorithm that I'm going to share that does the match process. So typically there have been more candidates in that match process than that actually get a position. And so it is a competitive process. So it's something that if you want more information on and just to get a sense of the numbers, you can go to the National Match website and the stats are available there. Okay, so this is a video. Just I'm going to play this quickly to show you how the match works, and it's taken directly from the website.
Into positions. For this match, there are 3 programs with their rank order list shown above, and 3 applicants with their rank order list shown below. The algorithm starts with Carlos and tries to place him into his first choice Bayview. Since Bayview has ranked Carlos, has a position available, Carlos is tentatively matched.
Dr. Narayan, I think we are now able to hear the video. Okay. Yes.
We say that matches are tentative because an applicant who is matched to a program at one point in the process may later be removed from the program to make room for a different applicant that is more preferred. Let's see how that works. The algorithm tries to place Kevin into his first choice Bayview. Bayview only has one position and is currently filled by Carlos. However, the algorithm sees that Bayview prefers Kevin over Carlos. So the algorithm removes Carlos from the position and Kevin is tentatively matched into Bayview. Since Carlos has just been removed from a tentative match, the algorithm tries to rematch Carlos. Carlos's first choice is Bayview, but the position is filled by Kevin, who is more preferred than Carlos. Next, the algorithm tries to match Carlos into his second choice Mountain. Since Mountain has ranked Carlos and has a position available, Carlos is tentatively matched to Mountain. The matching algorithm is now complete, as each applicant's list has been processed, and each applicant is tentatively matched to the most preferred choice possible. Tentative matches now become final. Hillside has no matches and is left with one unfilled position. You should note that with the matching algorithm, no applicant or program can be forced into a final match until all applicant rank order lists have been considered for the best possible tentative matches. Just remember, you will be matched to the most preferred program on your rank order list that ranks you and does not fill all of its available positions with applicants it prefers.
Oh, hi, Dr. Vanova. Sorry to interrupt, but just in the interest of time, since we only have an hour for the seminar, perhaps we should finish the mock interview by the 40-minute mark, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, we'll run through that quickly.
Thank you.
So we'll keep an eye on the time. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so essentially that's basically what I wanted to share. And thank you for the time. Essentially now I'll just hand it back to Joseph, who will kind of get us prepped for this mock interview.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Niranjan. Yeah, so I guess both Niranjan and I have been preparing in the background here for kind of just to do a really quick mock interview. So basically, Niranjan and I are going to take turns interviewing. So first, Niranjan will be the interviewee and I will be the interviewer, and then we will switch roles. And as you watch, just kind of notice kind of the differences between like the 2 different interviews. And also, it might come off as a bit campy or a bit like exaggerated, but just know that like a lot of the kind of the preparation we did for these interviews and a lot of things we'll say have actually been reflected in like actual interview answers that have been heard by by Niranjan as well. So, like if you see something, you're like, okay, that will never actually happen. Like it could totally happen. So these are things that like, we should be cognizant about them, not forget them. Yeah, we just wanted to have fun to show you, a potential interview here. Yeah, and it's just going to take a second. Niranjan is just prepping right now for the interview. Okay. So he just texted me right now. So he's ready for the interview. So just imagine that again, I am the interviewer, the program director, and then Ranjan is the interviewee. And let's get started. So good morning, Ranjan. Thank you so much for coming in for the interview. How are you today?
Oh, doing well. Thanks, Dr. Madamesila, for giving me the opportunity for the interview.
Great. And before we start the interview, if you don't mind, are you able to turn on your camera?
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, no problem. Just give me a second. Hey,
Great.
Joseph, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing very well. And once again, thank you so much for taking this time out of your day to be able to interview with us at our center. And I guess in the interest of time, let's just start with the first question here. Can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, your academic history, and maybe an accomplishment that you'd like to highlight?
Well, you guys have, thank you again. You guys have sort of, excuse me, I'm just gonna let you hear. You guys have seen my CV. You guys have read through it. I'm sure that highlights appropriately, a lot of my accomplishments. My academic history, and I think it's kind of self-explanatory, so I won't dive too much into that part. But I just want to say that like some of the things I've gotten, uh, let me just say that I'm really proud of all my accomplishments, and I think that sums it up. So thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. And we've read your CV, and we're like what we see, but
Oh,
I guess
sorry,
like
hold on a second. I got a
yeah,
call
for
from my
sure,
mom.
for sure.
Mom, I'm in the middle of interview. Can I call you back? Okay, thanks. Okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. Just
No problem.
all
It
time
happens to the best of us. So yeah, like in the interview setting, are you able to describe one of your aspects in your CV?
Yeah, I would say like, I think the best thing about some of the stuff I did was the research. I became a technical expert in my area, and I think my lab mates think I'm a great candidate for this, interview for this residency position. And yeah, it kind of sums it up.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess let's move on. Can you tell me one of your strengths, and then maybe follow up with a weakness?
Oh yeah, you know what? It's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I think a lot of people that I've worked with and interacted with have told me that I'm really technically savvy. I'm like the tech guru of the group, and that I think like, these are the like, when someone's in trouble, their laptop breaks down or there's some issue, I'm the one they call. So I think that's like kind of what I think my strengths are. Yeah. So that's all I can really think about at the moment. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, can you tell me maybe a strength that's related to like your medical physics, like your academic career?
Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, like again, my CV I think explains most of it, and you know, I think that covers a lot of my strengths. That's really covered in that in my CV. But I would say it's my technical skills. That's really the strong point.
Okay, all right. So let's move on to the last question we have in this interview. It's more of a technical
Right.
question, if that's okay. Can you tell me what is the role of adaptive therapy and where would you use it?
Okay, well, I think, this is a great question. Thank you for asking this question. So, like IGRT, BGRT, like these, like, our advancements in being able to adapt radiation therapy has really gone through the roof. I think, we should be spending a lot of time and resources in developing these and giving like personalized medicine for patients. And IGRT is, and what we can do with adaptive therapy is fantastic. And I think that is, sort of the next step in our, evolution in radiation oncology. And does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, Ian. Yeah. Okay. I guess in the interest of time, we'll just finish the interview here. Thank you so
Oh,
much for coming and spending time with us, and we hope to hear from you soon.
okay. Thank you so much. Really great opportunity, and it was really great to meet you guys. Cheers.
Thank you. Okay, so that is kind of the presentation. Hopefully our bad acting wasn't off-putting or anything, but yeah. So that was the presentation. So now we're gonna switch over. So I will be the candidate, and Niranjan will be the program director, and he will interview me as well. Right. So hopefully I'm not getting PTSD flashbacks from my own residency application, presentations and interviews. So here we go.
Yeah, personally, I thought the acting was pretty good. So let's. Okay. So Joseph, it's great to have you here in our, to come to our center for an interview. Could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your academic history and research, and specifically highlight something that you've accomplished?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much again for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to interview. My name is Joseph. I'm in my last year, my graduate studies at the Tom Baker Cancer Center. And during that time in my graduate studies, I was researching machine learning applications in patients that are undergoing stereotactic radiosurgery. So being able to use machine learning and apply those methods to be able to detect brain metastases earlier than what is clinically available. So, that is a nutshell kind of what my academic research has been about. And I would say an accomplishment that I personally am proud of is that I was able to use that research to get funding through the Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada. So they were nice enough to be able to fund our research, but also give us an opportunity to meet personally with donors. I was able to set up one-on-one calls with these donors and actually, give my research in a way that's accessible to them and be able to contextualize my own research. So that was, accomplishment, obviously financially, but also just personally.
Fantastic. And thank you for sharing that. And congratulations on your brain tumor scholarship. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your strengths and weaknesses and how that's how you've grown as a medical physics?
Yeah, Yeah, thank you. I guess, one of my strengths is I've always been a very organized person. So I have a good sense of kind of a project management perspective. So, I'm able to conceptualize like a research goal or a QA test or a commissioning project, conceptualizing it, planning for it, organizing, what is my plan of action, implementing that plan, and then integrating that in the clinic in a way that's, respects multidisciplinary, aspects of it. So for example, taking a QA test that I would make during my graduate studies and then applying it not only to the physicists, but being able to train like the therapists that are going to run the tests and being able to, test for robustness and kind of have that end-to-end vision in mind. So I would say, that my experience has kind of given me that strength. But I would say a weakness is really, my ability to manage time. Like I'm a habitual procrastinator, and it's hard for me to coordinate my time well. But I've been working on this, leveraging technology, Google Calendar, tasks, using my phone to be able to kind of keep up with my productivity and make sure that, at least for the crucial deadlines, I'm not falling behind.
Perfect. And lastly, just to wrap things up, radiation therapy, radiation oncology is a quickly growing field, highly technical. What is the role of adaptive therapy, and how and when would you use it?
Oh, that's a great question. Adaptive therapy really it's in the name. So the ability to adapt, our treatment plans as the patient is getting, treatment through the multiple fractions. So it can involve re-imaging, replanning, re-optimization. Because in a way, with conventional therapy, we're imaging and essentially planning on a snapshot of the patient in time. Then oftentimes we can assume that that the tumor isn't really changing within that treatment window, but some cancers actually can respond quite well to this treatment. So because of that, adaptive therapy gives us this opportunity to re-image and then better, adjust our current treatment plan to target that larger tumors, new volumes. So one example of that would be, an SBRT treatment in the abdomen. So it may need to be adapted between fractions due to disease progression or differences in where critical OARs can be on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, great. So thank you, Joseph. That brings us to a conclusion of our interview and a conclusion to our mock interview. So I think what we wanted to highlight, what Joseph and I were thinking was, just to provide some contrast between the two different styles and what works and doesn't work. And so I think I'll hand it back to Joseph. Did you maybe hand it back to the panel for questions and comments?
Awesome. Thank you so much, both. That was super fun and incredibly helpful. And I think the Zoom chat was having a great time. So we'll do a very smooth slide to our Q&A session. But before we do move to that, I'll introduce our third and final panelist, Dr. Jude Free. He is currently a resident at BC Cancer Surrey, following his undergraduate degrees in electrical engineering and biological sciences. Jude earned his PhD in biomedical science at the University of Guelph as a CIHR Vanier Scholar. His PhD and brief postdoc work focused on improving the translational validity of preclinical neuropsychopharmacology, leading neurodevelopmental MRI studies, and developing novel open source hardware. During his Campbell Medical Physics graduate certification, he participated in an internship at BC Cancer Victoria, where he completed monthly QA on linacs and CT scanners and worked on a Monte Carlo-based simulation environment. So everyone, if you have any questions, please feel free to write in the chat or raise your hand. We encourage you to turn on your cameras and unmute your mic when you're asking, if you are comfortable. So I'll start with one of the questions we had in the chat. Alita asked, is it common to include conference abstracts on your CV when you're not the first author? So yes, go ahead.
I guess I'll take that one. If you're an author or co-author, I think it's totally acceptable to put that in your CV. We're all contributing to different parts of research projects that are happening. So yeah, I would include it.
The next question is Tina says, could you please clarify whether programs are not using MP-RAP this year and are instead using the MATFIS match for applications?
Yeah, I guess I can feel that one too, guys. So there was basically the MP-RAP has been decommissioned, and now that same service is being offered through the MedFizz Match software. But I would caution, I would say basically, if you're applying to a specific program, look at their website and see how they want that information sent. Some centers may still want that to be directly emailed to the program head or the administrator, and some programs may not be using the online software. But I know a lot of centers are using the online software, so just watch out. But MP-RAP is if not already, I think it's being decommissioned.
The next question. Oh yeah, this ties into the mock interview you guys were doing. Are technical questions like role of adaptive therapy typically catered towards the specialty of the clinic you're applying to, or is it more general therapy technical questions?
So I think the technical questions, I just my own survey of what we do and then what I've heard in other centers is that there is some sort of technical question that does come up in the majority of centers. It's not necessarily something that is specific to a specialty that a center has. Say, for example, if a center had proton therapy, that would be you'd expect questions around that. They may be general questions. I think this question about adaptive therapy is a very common one. I've heard it come up, so that's why we sort of chose it. But I think it's fair game. I think some centers have gone into a lot more detail. Some centers keep it a little more generic. Maybe some basic dosimetry questions, or maybe something that's related to a current hot topic like Flash or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah. And I guess I'll add on to that, in my experience, it was about half of the centers that I applied for asked a technical question. And the technical questions, tended to be quite like obviously related to medical physics, but still quite general. And I think there was only one center that asked me like a very specific question based on like a new technology that they had been advertising that they were getting. So it was still kind of framed more general. So it was more like, how would you QA this aspect of this new, machine or whatever. So, it wasn't very, very specific, but the technical questions were like that when I had it.
I would agree. I think the vast majority of the questions that you get asked in an interview are not technical. um, and it's only a few centers that would ask technical questions. And in those cases, often would give you even options. They would be like, here's 4 different questions, choose one to answer. Because, they don't expect you to necessarily know all the technical detail at that point either. They want to know how you answer technical things that you already understand.
Okay, the next questions are regards to the interviews. So are residency interviews typically as short as portrayed here, or is it the shorter length of these mock interviews, just to get a general idea of the process? Or if you have also, please comment in a typical interview length.
In Canada, they tend to be, they're certainly longer than the mock interview. I would say like minimum 20 minutes. I think the longest one I had was an hour. But if you interview in the States, there's like much, much longer because they often will have multiple residents interview at a time. So they can be like full day type experiences. So big ranges.
The next question is, what kind of questions do interviewees ask you during their interview? Or I guess, how would they ask questions to get to know about the program more?
So I guess I can answer that one. So like, yeah, a lot of the questions are like the very typical HR questions. So like the ones that we had done in the mock interview, the strengths and weaknesses, like almost every single center that I interviewed for asked me that question. Obviously the introduction to yourself. And then, if it wasn't clear in the first interview that, you want to lay it out there, you don't want to be like, hey, like I just wrote in my CV, like, why didn't you read it kind of attitude. So, it's important to have, your ability to like kind of answer those HR questions. And then I guess what was the second part of that question?
Oh, I guess
It was
applicants want to, sorry, this is like my added on to it. If the applicants want to know more about the residency.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, so like in terms of like the questions that I asked at the end, there's a few centers that were like commissioning new technologies. So like that ended up being like a really easy kind of question that was very relevant. And it showed that like you kind of knew what was happening in the center. So you tend to like glean that information from the intro sessions that you would get pre-interview. So they would introduce you to like, what are we going to do next year? What are we like, what are the things that we're going to do? Like, are we commissioning a new linac? So then those became like the questions I would ask and was very relevant. And, it kind of shows that you're paying attention also.
Okay. So the next question is, as a residency director, now that we will be submitting cover letters through the, I guess, National Mass System, NMS system, it's difficult to imagine tailoring our cover letters to specific centers. How will you be interpreting generalized cover letters from candidates? That's the first question. Then he has 2 questions more.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I see the question. So this past year, all of our candidates submitted applications to the NP-RAP system. So I think candidates were able to create a letter that was non-center specific. And I think when you're writing it, I mean, some of the simple things you can do is like you can think about submitting that you're submitting to a residency program, and in our case, it's like a therapy residency program. So when you are addressing it, keep in mind that all these centers they're all offering you something that's fairly similar, and I think you use that as sort of the framework of what who you're writing to. Could there be specific things that like one particular center is you find attractive? Possibly, but you may just want to leave that stuff out and just talk about why, how your journey, into, through medical physics graduate school has led you to wanting to do a residency. And I think if you identify that and you're clear on your goals and your career goals, I think you should be able to generalize it quite well and not have to say, maybe, this is to the University of Toronto, or this is to the BC Cancer Agency, or to Cancer Care Manitoba. I hope that answers your question, Vipal.
Yeah, well, yeah, he has the other questions are pretty much related to your answers, so I think that's okay. Thank you.
Next question is, do number of publications in PhD somehow affects the applications to get to the interview step?
Okay, so that's a good question. Number of publications. So, like I said earlier, it really depends on, the type of project, and I think we have, people who are on the selection committees are people who have experience in research and have been a graduate student. And there are some projects that, and some, being in some laboratories that allow you to publish things quickly, and you may have a lot of publications. And I think definitely that's good. But it's not always about the number of publications. I think it's also a little bit about the quality and the importance of the work and how that reflects. So, I don't want to get stuck saying that it's a numbers game. But in your CV and your application, I think the most important thing you have to convey is that you have been a productive member of your team, and you've done something that's, and that'll also be reflective in the reference letters. How your supervisors and the people who are mentoring you, hold your work up to the body of work that's being done. Like you could be spending 5 years developing a new method and get maybe one or two publications, but people recognize that that was a really important contribution to that body of work. So I think, people who are on the selection panels, I think they're they are aware of it. I hope they're aware of it. So I hope that answers your question. It's not, there's no clear answer. There's no clear answer for that.
Okay, thank you. I guess due to the time, this will be the last question. I guess I will pick. So, okay, it says like in your experience, what has an interview done to stand out from the rest, and what factors are you looking for when ranking candidates?
Okay, so I think that comes back to me. Okay, you know what? Again, it's a pretty difficult question to quantify. I think going back to my presentation, I think we highlighted a number of things that contribute to that strong interview performance. It's an accumulation of things. You have to be a good student. You have to have those. You have to have a good transcript. You have to have productivity in your research and your graduate work. You have to have strong research, reference letters, and those, all of those will help you, through the selection process to get you to the interview. But it'll get you into the door, sort of, to say, it gets you in the door to give you a chance to present yourself. Then you have to present yourself. So, you have to be able to communicate your ideas clearly, have substance and depth to your answers. And I think, those qualities that I had mentioned is really what we're looking for. In terms of standing out, I don't know if I would be concerned about, trying to differentiate yourself, but I think those who understand what their strengths are, and understanding, how their contribution has made a difference in their research area will give you a strong interview. I don't think I think it's pretty safe to say, I think that there's like 107 of you on this call today, which is amazing. I think very few of us will have the opportunity to really do something that's like, on the line of like Nobel Prize winning research. I mean, the rest of us are all trying to just incrementally try to contribute in our own little area. And I think, as long as we understand that, and we understand, how our work contributed to the large body of science, and you conveyed that, that'll help really, it'll show your maturity in the interview. It'll also say a lot to sort of your work as well. So, in terms of again, in terms of standing out, I think again those four or five things I mentioned will help you in be successful, I think, in your residency program. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
We'll actually just do one more question, if that's okay for everyone.
Absolutely.
It can be controversial, but I wonder, will you recommend emailing the institution to show your interest after the interview and before the ranking period? So kind of ask how the institution ranked the candidate.
Oh, okay. So I'd recommend everyone to read through the guidelines. There are rules and regulations to how we all have to sort of interact during this matching process. I think we cannot solicit that information directly. Now, I think I'm not entirely sure if the question is just about asking about the ranking, like did a candidate, like if someone emailed me and said, did you rank me? I don't think we're allowed to solicit, but I think institutions can, if they want to, can say, yes, we're very interested in you and we're going to rank you. But I think that's pretty much it. It has to be voluntary. So there's a few paragraphs and the wording is pretty careful, but very specifically, I can say that as a program director, I can't go out and ask a candidate and say, hey, did you rank us? Like that's not appropriate. So, and we also want to make sure that the system itself, the matching process, is a fair and fair process, and I think the rules are pretty clear about that. So it's a pretty complex question. There's several rules. I wish we had more time to go through them, but I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, so that was our last question. So I would like to do the closing remarks. So thank you so much to all our speakers. So I will give a round of applause for all of them. And thank you for answering all your questions. And of course, if someone has any question, any extra question, you are able to, I guess, to contact them. I guess they said you are welcome to do it. So yeah. So thank you so much for attending our first COM Career Catalyst organized by the COM Student Council. And more of these sessions will be coming, so please check out our social media accounts, or LinkedIn, or X account, and even our Instagram account that is new. So make sure to follow us, and remember that this recording will be available in our YouTube also channel. So that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, all our speakers. That was a great job. A very good talks. Very useful.
Thank you.
Genuinely, thank
It
you
was a
so
pleasure.
much. Yeah, have a good one, everyone.
Yes,
Thank you so
have a
much.
good one.
All the best.